Hello viewers, this is a dream come true because this is an Audi RS2.
Sitting inside the Audi RS2, I mean, you feel just how special this car is. First and foremost, I want to just touch on the fact that this is a car from 1995. You have blue carbon weave in a car from 1995. Just quick trivia, right? About 5 years prior to this, or 6 years prior actually, Horatio Pagani left Lamborghini for wanting to use carbon fiber in Lamborghinis. And 6 years later, this is, well, an estate car that shows up with that. Other thing, sure, it's a 90s car and everything, and you're gonna get a lot of plastic. It's a car from the 90s. You have to just expect this. And sure, this is no Audi A4, definitely, but everything just feels so much better than freaking S-classes from today. I mean, this is not really Alcantara, it's not really suede, but it's still a lovely material for what it is. I mean, you have actual leather here, sure, you got plastic here, but again, quick thing, electric mirrors, door mirrors on a car from the 90s, and a more electric door mirror stuff here. I mean, this is the windows buttons here. This is incredibly mechanical and analog. Sure, there's some plastic on it again, but I mean, just that sound. When last did you hear that sort of a sound from an RS car, from an Audi RS car? And sure, this is the first Audi RS car that ever existed, but that also means that it's got a lot of little Easter eggs about the car. Here you have the RS2 logo. You've got the Audi bit here, the RS2 on the sides, you've got Porsche written down here. You have the Audi logo over here, nice and big. This steering wheel is very similar to what you would get in the S2 back then. I wouldn't say that goes as far back as a Quattro because I was a 70s car, but this is still, it's very 90s Audi. Get the gear selector here, absolutely stunning. This is more beautiful, and I would say, than some 90s Lamborghinis in terms of how the gear selectors looks. I mean, it's solid. It feels like a handshake. It feels like a solid, proper handshake that you get from a friend you haven't seen in a long time. More leather on top of some plastic down here. You have a little display, not really a display, but just a little graph here of how the diff looks and works. And a diff button. You have a CD changer, again, car from the 1990s, 1995 to be exact in this model. There's so much trivia. This is an original sound system, or radio, that was changed out recently. It charges your phone and everything. The owner put this in just because he wanted some modern amenities, but I mean, again, everything here is this, it's the kind of analog that any car fanatic would want. And I mean, Mateo can just talk about the passenger side now because I'm geeking out too much. I actually am. Mateo.
Okay guys, so now I'm sat in the passenger side, and I'd like to just start by saying how generally comfortable this car actually is. Speaking about, it's from the 90s, but the seating is still thick and plush. The leather is still surrounding you everywhere, and you feel one with the car, if I could say that. You've kind of kept into the seat. You've got obviously the thick side pieces here, and those kind of hug you, and you feel like you really are one with the car. Whether it's, how late you mentioned the gear shifter being like a handshake, it's like the seats are hugging you in, and it's just really comfortable. Everything is just genuine quality. You've got your leather on the sides here, you've got this suede kind of mixture, obviously the blue tinted carbon, which is just absolutely beautiful. The leather going across the entire dash, got really good leg space, and obviously really good headroom. This is being an Avant type of car, you've got a lot of space inside here, and I must say, it really is just that end goal for an Audi car, especially for an RS. And I'd like to touch on some small factors actually as well. If you open in here, this car is actually electronically controlled with the seats from 1995, and you electronically control the seats. And I'm going to step out quickly and just mention that actually these seats are from a 911, a two-door car, and therefore these seats actually fold forward, which doesn't make sense that this is a four-door car. And that's just another little Easter egg coming from Porsche, being this an Audi and Porsche joint car. So yeah, otherwise this car is just beautiful in every way. It's got your carbon, it's got your old comfortable leather from when the cars were made properly, not these days your Polos and other Toyotas that feel like they spend 10 Rand on them. This was made properly and done properly, and it's really impressive being inside this car.
I mean, even some car makers, they cut corners today with some very high-spec models. I mean, last week we were in an S-Class that had some very badly cut corners when it came to interior quality, and they weren't faffing around here. And just one thing Matteo can quickly pull out is the book that comes with the car.
Another Easter egg, I should say, where now you have the best of both German worlds. You have the Audi badge and the Porsche badge on your one booklet. This also means that if you have any issues with any of the Porsche parts that were made on this car, you can choose to go to Audi or Porsche, and you can rock up at Porsche with your Audi RS2 and go for a checkup, because they will be able to supply certain parts to you, which is just something really interesting to have, that you have that type of optioning with this car.
So yes guys, this is the Audi RS2, which is literally the very first RS car in Audi's history. I mean, cars like the Audi RS6, Audi RS4, Audi RS3, which South Africans just die over, is because literally of this car. So this car came out in 1994, which was a partnership between Porsche and Audi. Well, as you can see here, the engine is literally powered by a Porsche, but we'll get to that later on. So in the early 90s, Porsche was really struggling. The 993 really wasn't doing very well, and fundamentally Audi was looked at as the sub-brand or a lower class brand other than Mercedes and BMW. So this literally helped Porsche survive through the 90s, which actually gave us the 996, as many people hate that car, which fundamentally I love it because it's still a 911 at the end of the day, no matter how it looks. But it also put Audi on the map as a performance brand, because this really was the very first Audi RS car. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that. And you know, nowadays we just take it for granted that, you know, you see an RS6 or an RS4, you know, we just don't understand where the brand came from. Audi really wasn't the brand that we know it is or of today. They were looked at as the old man's car, such as like Volvo as is today, sadly. Sadly. But it's still a special car in the lineup, and out of all cars in Audi's history apart from the Quattro, this is probably the one that will be valuable in the near future, eventually, like when we all revert to EVs or hybridization. But yeah, so now let's actually move on to the power specs of this car.
Okay guys, we are now at the front end, the powerhouse of the entire car. The total machine all comes from this side of the vehicle. Other than this all-wheel drive system and the gearbox and all, the power in this car is utterly insane for the year. This is a 2.2 litre 5-cylinder joint collaboration between Porsche and Audi, saying that again, this is the only car where it is labelled for it. This car came with 232 kilowatts from factory and 410 newton meters of torque, with a 0 to 100 time of a claimed 5 to 5.5 seconds. But I know how Audi is, and Quattro gets you off the line in a different way to what anything else really can, especially when Porsche worked on it as well. And so these, I'm pretty sure you can get them to do sub 5 second 0 to 100 times. And on some other interesting figures to do with this car is it actually off the line in certain instances is quicker than a Mclaren F1, which was the world's fastest and quickest car for a long time before the Bugatti Veyron and Koenigsegg then came after. So this car was another spectrum of work, another spectrum of design, another spectrum of performance for the 1995 era. This was definitely off the line quicker than any supercar of the time. And so being Porsche and Audi, they didn't just collaborate on the engine. You can see here the wheels are generally Porsche designed wheels. It came with special tires designed only for this car, which these now have aftermarket Michelins on, but they did come with special tires for themselves. Porsche mirrors, as you can see, and then obviously the Avant design from Audi, which to me always holds a special place in my heart. I always loved the RS6 Avant, the RS4 Avant, and obviously this is the granddaddy of them all, the RS2 Avant. And so for this era, there really was nothing that could really compare with it, other than your top of the line supercars, which still off the line could not compete. This also, I'd like to touch, comes with the upgraded Porsche brakes, and that instance is where we've learned from the owner himself that you are actually also able to just go to Porsche to get these brakes, as they were supplemented from a Porsche itself. And so overall, the performance on this car is just utterly insane, especially being a 1995 car. We've heard stories about these cars keeping up with much newer cars. Those are the likes of Mercs in the AMGs, from M cars, and even later RS cars. And this thing even going over 250 kilometers an hour when fully stretched out. And so to me, this car will always hold a special place in my heart, and I know it does in the rest of the guys' hearts as well, and generally in the car community. When you see one of these, you know that the business end of things has come from Audi, and it will remain that way.
So in case an owner of an RS2 has tried as much as possible to debadge the car, there is one where you can see that it's an RS2, other than the fact that it is a estate car. But the rear lights, this is the only Audi back in the 1990s that had a full-length tail bar. This is Porsche's idea. It's a way that you can identify the car. You have a little handle over here to open the boot. And, well, it's much heavier. The owner did put a big subwoofer in there, but it's quite sizable. It's not as big as estate cars from the era. This is much smaller than estate cars from the area. But it's still big enough for, you know, a trip to Mozambique from South Africa, comfortably. And, well, you got more of the badges over here. Of course, being a 5-cylinder car and a 2.2 liter, you wouldn't need more than one exhaust pipe at the back, which is still insane to me because this car produced so much horsepower, such a powerful engine. Now, stock, you would get 2 little pipes. The owner did purposefully switch this out and wanted one just because it didn't stick out as much. It does look a lot cleaner. Personally, I'm going to admit I didn't actually know that it had 2 at the back. I thought that this was stock because it looks stock. It looks very clean, and you know, I kind of do prefer it with 1 instead of 2. Even though, yeah, in my opinion, it looks a lot cleaner than the two that did stick out quite a lot. And now I'll just go back to Eugene.
So yes guys, we have reached the end of this wonderful dream come true review. I still remember about 3 years ago when I actually sat down and did a thorough information review on this car. Not the specific car, but in general, the RS2. And I just felt like that day, maybe one day I might actually stand next to it. And here I am, I'm standing next to the past. So thank you so much for watching. If you have an interesting car, just hit our email down below. It's in the description box below. If you're in South Africa and you want us to review your cool car, hit our email down below. And well, see you next time.